Hello and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. This is Corey Emmons coming to you from the ActiveView headquarters in Rockaway, New Jersey. Today we will be talking about Advanced Agent, which is how you bring screens and applications from an operator's desktop up to a display wall or to another operator's desktop. One key note before we start, I just called it Advanced Agent, which is how it's been known in every version of ActiveView up until just about now. Going forward, we will actually be calling this functionality the Capture Client. It better captures, excuse the pun, how the software is used. So throughout this video, I will be referring to it as the Capture Client, but please do note that I am talking about the Advanced Agent as it is known as 5.4. So for this video, we will be going through the Capture Client and its settings and how each setting affects how the Capture Client is used. And I will also be showing some of these features in practice and what happens when you manipulate some of these features. To get started, we'll first have to open the Advanced Agent control panel. And I can open that by going to my system tray down here, right-clicking on the Capture Client itself and saying Open Agent Control Panel. Now when I do that, a window will pop up, as you can see, and it's going to ask me for a password. Now unless this password has changed, and in most cases it will not have changed, this password will always be ActiveView with an all lowercase spelling. When I open that up, you'll see that I have a lot of options on the left-hand side. And we start with the Access panel. Now going in here, there are some options that I'd like to point out to you. Up here, there's the Access Restriction. There's a couple of checkboxes here on the left. I have View Only and Disable Notify Window. View Only is pretty self-explanatory. If you check that box, when your screen is shared, that means that there will be no keyboard and mouse control available to whoever shared it. So say I share this screen onto a display wall, someone would not be able to go and preview that source and take control of my screen. This Disable Notify window is basically just saying that I don't want to be notified when my screen is shared, and that's what that does. On the right-hand side here, we have a couple of radio buttons, either permit connection or lockout connection. So permit connection means, yes, we can use my Capture Client throughout the ActiveView system. Lockout connection obviously means we cannot use my Capture Client. Now down here on the bottom, connection permission. This one is interesting and can be quite useful. Right now it's set to no permission required. What that means is when someone shares my screen or I share my screen, it's going to just put it up on the wall, right? If I check this notify before allowing connection, it's going to open up a couple of options here: expire permission, request after how many seconds, and then this checkbox for automatically permit connection after expiration. Essentially what this is telling me is that now when my screen is shared, it is actually going to bring up a dialog box on my screen asking if I want to give permission for my screen to be shared. And I will show this in a minute. But right here, this timer right here for 10 seconds is what's going to tell it how long to show that notification before it just disappears. So I'm going to set that for 20 for demonstration purposes. And this checkbox right here, automatically permit connection after expiration. Essentially what that means is if the notify window comes up and I don't click it in time, if that's checked, my desktop will show up anyway. So I'm going to keep that unchecked, and I'm going to go ahead and apply these settings. And now I'm going to go to remote control and actually bring up my screen on the main display wall, which you can see up in the camera view in the top right-hand corner here. If I go to Network, New Jersey Demo Surface, and bring that up on the screen, now I'm getting this window here, right, asking to have permission to show my desktop. Now I'm going to check this box, and I'm going to accept, and that's what's actually going to allow my screen to be shared onto the wall, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and close that. And that's the access panel. If I move down here on the left, the next one up is bandwidth. This is what is telling the capture client how much bandwidth to use when you are sharing your screen or screen content. Generally, do not mess with these settings. They are set to these by default and should not be changed. Compression level. If you're in a low bandwidth environment, you don't have a lot of network capacity to be sharing screens, this is where you would come and adjust that. As you can see, compression by default is set to medium, but I can play around with this and control how much compression is being used before my screen is sent off. Now, a couple of things about this. The more compression you use, the more taxing it's going to be on your local hardware to send your image over to whatever display it's going to be showing on. So keep that in mind. Next up is encryption. Again, this is one of those panels where it's set by default, and you probably do not want to mess with these settings. Same with this general tab. Capture interval 50 milliseconds, so that essentially means it's taking it's checking your screen for changes every half a second. Update registration status, ping for inactivity. These are just general settings that are used by the ActiveView system. I wouldn't mess around with them. This multiplexers tab. The multiplexer in an ActiveView system is what is taking a network source and then spreading that around to whatever display needs to see it. In general, most systems only have one, and that multiplexer should be shown in this list. Sometimes when troubleshooting, you might find that the multiplexer has disappeared from this list, and this is how you would add it back in. For security, this password is the password we use to get into this advanced agent control panel. For the most part, there's really no need to change it, but if you do need to change it, this is where you do it. Under viewer listings, right now it says no connected viewers. Let's go ahead and change that so we can see what that looks like. And I'm going to get my my request here. I'll go ahead and accept that. And now if I go back to this advanced agent control panel, I'll refresh the page, and you'll see that there is a viewer connected here. Now if I want to, I can actually disconnect them. So if I click that and disconnect, that means I'm actually kicking that image off of the display wall it's connected to. If there's something going on my screen that I do not need other people to see, or some other privacy concern or what have you, that is how you would do that. Next up is streaming. Again, this is one of those pages you probably shouldn't mess with. This is capturing how often your screen is being captured. Under the audio tab, this will actually allow your capture client to capture the audio coming from your PC. If you want to bring your PC onto a display wall, the display wall has a sound output that maybe goes to your sound system. This is how you would get your audio into that sound system, by checking this box here. I'm going to skip capture area for a second. We'll go back to that one. But next up, I want to go back to capture method. Capture method has three options: software, screen scrape, and desktop duplication. As the words in parentheses says, anything above Windows 8, we generally recommend to do desktop duplication. It's essentially a different way of capturing the pixels on your screen to share them to different displays. Some older versions are software and screen scrape. If you're running on some pretty low-end hardware, software might be better, as it's going to use less resources. And then screen scrape is kind of the intermediary choice for, say, Windows 2000, 2008 Server, or maybe Windows XP. The last one here is Validate Windows. This one is actually a deprecated feature and will be removed shortly, so please ignore that screen. There are buttons in here, but they don't really actually accomplish anything, so no need to play around with that one. So we're going to go back to capture area. One thing I wanted to point out, we showed in the beginning that I had 2 monitors. So what I actually want to do here is actually show you how to use capture areas to display different monitors on display walls. So just to start out with, I'm going to bring my screen back onto the display wall in the camera. So take the demo Surface PC, bring it up, and I'll accept that request. Now I'm going to go ahead and maximize this so you can see it clearly. And what you'll see is that we have 2 separate monitors. We have the now blank monitor on the right, and then the monitor with everything that I'm doing on the left. So what I'd actually like to do is to be able to capture these monitors separately through the capture client. So what I'm going to do is go back into this capture areas in the advanced staging control panel, and as you can see right now there's just one that's called the default, and its width is 3840, its height is 1080. I have 2 1920 by 1080 monitors, so that makes sense. That is the entire desktop. What I actually want to do is add 1 capture area for each monitor. So the first thing I have to do, because these buttons are grayed out, is actually to close that source on the display wall. Capture areas cannot be defined while your desktop is being captured. As you can see, this add button is back, so I'm going ahead and click that. And now I have 3 options here. I can capture the entire desktop, I can capture a window, or I can capture a screen area. I'm going to go ahead and give this a friendly name, so I'm going to call it Monitor 1. And what I want to do is actually capture a screen area. Now there are 2 ways to do this. I can either type in the pixels, so starting from the top left, if I'm capturing my leftmost monitor, that's going to be 00, 0. And then I can type in the width and height of my monitor. But an easier way is to click select a region. When I click that, it's actually going to gray out my screen, and I can select a monitor just by clicking and dragging the mouse. Now as you can see, it's still 00, 1920 by 1080. So I'll go ahead and hit add. And now what I want to do is actually go in here and add my monitor 2. So I'll go in and click add, give it a friendly name, monitor 2, and I also want to capture a screen area. This one as well, I'll select a region, so I'll click on that. Now you can see the gray is showing on my second monitor, so I can go ahead and select that entire monitor. And now I have my pixels that I need to capture. So looking from the top and left, it's going to start at the top left at 0. It's going to move over to the right 1920 pixels to skip my monitor 1. And then it's going to be width 1920 by height 1080 because it's a 1080p monitor. So I can hit add, and now I have 3 capture areas defined: default, monitor 1, and monitor 2. So now what happens? How do I select these monitors? When I go back into remote control in ActiveView, what you will find is that the New Jersey Demo Surface PC that I was grabbing before has actually become a folder. When I click on that folder, you'll see each capture area defined within this folder. So I have my desktop, which is what we were using before, which is the entire 2 monitor span. I have monitor 1 and I have monitor 2. So I'll take monitor 1, bring it onto the screen, accept the permission, and that will bring up monitor 1. Now I can also take monitor 2, drag it onto the screen, accept the permission, and that will show monitor 2. So now I'm showing both of my monitors, but as separate windows. So if I'm capturing different information on different screens that need to be shared with different people, I can actually display these monitors on different walls and not have to show my entire span of monitors, but just the ones that have the information that are relevant. That's everything I wanted to show you today regarding the Capture client. Brings you through the agent control panel and all of its settings. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at actiview.com. And please stay tuned for our next Tech Tuesday.